What's going on, YouTube? We're back at it with another video today. Before we get into talking about Manny Machado, I wanted to address something that I said yesterday in my video talking about arbitration. I mentioned Cano only getting $15 million in his final year of arbitration. I used him as like a prime example to why I think players get too much nowadays. Well, it turns out I was actually wrong about that. Cano did not have, it was not his arbitration. The Yankees had extended him for 4 years and had made the contract more back-ended. So, like, the second year he got $10 million, third year he got $14 million, and the last year he got $15 million. I thought it was an arbitration kind of case, just by the way it looked and by the way he was getting more per year. I made an assumption. I went back and checked it though, and it turns out I was actually wrong about that. I wanted to address that before getting into this video. I'll admit it when I'm wrong. That's I'm not scared to say that I'm wrong sometimes, and sometimes I am. But I still stand by my point. I think players in arbitration get way too much nowadays. I think it's just too expensive. I think you should get your big money on the market, and that if you're a team that has your homegrown talent, it should be a plus for you, more of a plus. That you shouldn't have to pay them big league money before they get on the market. Or at least, not like 30 million at least like, lower 20s, like I said, 18, 19, 20 million for the superstars. But with that said, I wanted to talk about Manny Machado today and just addressing some of the criticism that the fan base has when it comes to why they shouldn't sign him or why they should have never even thought about signing him and why he doesn't make sense, why he's a risky player. And it really comes from a guy I was having a discussion with the other day. And what he was telling me was some red flags about Manny Machado. And you guys know I love Manny Machado. But before I talk about my personal preference on him and all that kind of stuff, I want to dive into the fan base's opinion on him because it's changed a little bit this offseason. When this offseason started off, I would say it was probably at about 50-50 in the fan base, whether they wanted him or not. I believe Yes even ran a poll on, should the Yankees go out and pursue Machado at the beginning of the offseason. And the fan base said, 51% said, no, we don't want Machado. We don't want to pursue him. The Yankees don't need him, but yada, yada, yada. I always disagreed with that. I always thought the Yankees should go get him, but it shows you where the fan base was. They were divided. A lot of people wanted him, a lot of people didn't want him, and I think the main reason for that, besides a couple things, was that a lot of fans thought that we were going to go after bigger guys, or not bigger guys, but we were going to go after like a big expensive player like Corbin. Patrick Corbin was a player that I think a lot of people thought we were going to get, and once we didn't get Corbin and we settled for J.A. Happ instead, I think a lot of people kind of switched. Like, not 100% obviously, or even close to that, but a lot of people kind of wanted, Machado, who didn't want Machado before, kind of then wanted Machado. And I think we got to a point where we were much heavier for yes than no. And it just kind of seemed like almost everyone wanted Machado at one point. And, you went on the Yankees Twitter and it was like, announce Machado, announce him, blah, blah, blah. And, there's other players that people wanted, but Machado was the overwhelming favorite. And then we signed DJ LeMahieu. And that's when I think some people either just gave up hope or said, okay, it doesn't make sense. We're not going to go after Machado anymore. Now, you ask it now if the fan base wants Manny Machado. And I think we're back to about even. I think we're about 50-50. A lot of people don't want him because we don't need him. It's what they say. We don't need Machado. Or they just think the payroll's too high, which that's a fair, assumption. Because, do I think we're going to get Machado? No, I really don't. I think there's a very slim chance to none that we get Machado. I've said yesterday, we're at $213 million. If we were to add Machado for $30 million, say, that would put us at $243 million, right below that maximum threshold of $246, which we're not going to go anywhere close to. So I think we're done spending for the season. But I wanted to address the criticism because, to me, where I stand with Machado, I told you guys I'm a Machado fanboy. I think he is for sure the best free agent on this market. Even going into the free agent, I think that he was for sure the number one free agent, ahead of Corbin for sure, and ahead of Harper. He's better than Harper. I don't care what people say about Harper. Harper's more inconsistent. He doesn't, he doesn't have quite the consistency of Machado. His defense is definitely worse than Machado. Machado's a platinum glove third baseman. And you look at the year that Harper had. He hit 249. He did get like over 30 home runs, but his WAR was like 1.8, or it was in the ones for sure. Compared to Machado, that's not very impressive. Machado has always been between like a 3 and 6 or 7 win player, which that's actually going to lead into some of the criticisms people were giving him. But yeah, no, for sure. I think Machado is for sure the best free agent on the market this season. And I think he's one of the best free agents that MLB has had in a while, which is why it just blows my mind that people aren't biting on him, that no one is going after him for the money that we thought he was going to get. I thought for sure he was going to get 10 years, over $300 million. But if he gets had for 8 years, $240 million, it's gonna really hurt. It's gonna hurt me because I love Machado, and I think that's a very affordable price, downright cheap for Machado. Honestly, I think he's a great player. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the criticisms that people have been giving Machado. And the first thing that someone said, and I've seen this a couple of times now, it is addressing his 2017 season. It is accordingly his down season. First of all, guys, I don't agree with this. I don't see how his 1 year that by the way, that 2017 season, yeah, it was a bad year for Machado, but it was a very productive year if you're going by the average MLB player. It was his WAR was 3.4 that year. He still hit 30 home runs. He still drove in 95 runs. His slugging, OPS, all that kind of stuff was close to his regular years. The only thing that took a big hit was his batting average. He hit like 259, which, again, that's above league average. That's still not bad at all. But, it wasn't Manny Machado-like, and people are using the excuse to where they're saying, well, it wasn't because of injury, or anything like that. It was just because he had a bad year, and that's concerning. That's a red flag. But I cannot agree with that. I don't agree. Like I said, he was still very productive. He's had 4 All-Star years, superstar talent, great defender, great hitter. I think that overrides that 1 year. But the thing is, and people don't ever acknowledge this. It's funny how players have the opposite problem, like Chase Headley and Jacoby Ellsbury, where they have one really good year, but then they never go back to that. They never hit that ceiling again. Well, why is it not okay for Machado to have the same kind of issue where 1 year, he didn't even have as good of a year, not a bad year. Again, an above average production year, just not quite Machado-like, and people are criticizing him for that, but why are people not, more focused on the bigger picture, which is, look at last year. Last year he was fine. He had a WAR above 5, playing at an inferior position, at shortstop. Again, if you don't know, he is a much better third baseman than shortstop, but last year he was fine. 2016, he was great. 2015, he was awesome. And 2013, all-star MVP caliber years. The dude is a stud. Throw 2017 out the window. Even if he did hit his 2017 numbers, that's an improvement for the Yankees. Just the fact that they would have his glove at third base at a where he's been a platinum glove before is a huge improvement. With those numbers hitting, almost 260, 30 plus homers, 95 runs, great stuff. But I think Machado is more likely to hit what he did last year, or even better than he did last year, which is, around 300, 35 plus home runs, probably close to 100 RBIs. That's what to expect out of Machado. And I think it is it's not a red flag what he did in 2017, regardless if there was a reason for it or not. He's outperformed that so many times. And like I said, it's not even as if that was a bad year. So I'm going to throw that out the window. The next thing that people like to criticize Machado about, or not criticize him, but they say is a red flag, is his injury. Now, he's been pretty healthy, but if you don't remember, back in 2014, he had a collision with a first baseman and ended up having to have knee surgery. And he missed months. It took him months to recover from his knee surgery. And a lot of people say, well, that's concerning. How is that going to, affect him, years down his contract, wherever he signs? But I think that is just a ridiculous thing to worry about. The thing about Machado, or about any free agent, is there's always going to be some injury concern. There is very rarely a free agent that hits the market that doesn't have an injury history. Look at Corbin. Look at Patrick Corbin. look at any free agent and think about the risk that you have, not only with injury, but consistency in hitting or pitching or whatever, or being, a star player. Those are always a risk. There's always going to be a risk to signing a free agent, and there's always going to be an injury history. Almost all the time there's some sort of injury history. And I mean, I think the one thing you have to note about Machado is that his injury wasn't even, it wasn't like he pulled something or he just couldn't stay on the field. He ran into a guy and had to have knee surgery. It was because he ran into somebody. And how did he bounce back for that, you may ask? Came back in 2015, healthy. 2016, healthy. 2017, healthy. 2018, healthy. And the 4 years that he has come back since he has recovered from his knee surgery, he has not played less than 156 games. I think that is just ridiculous to even say that health is a concern for Machado. He has never had any serious problem staying on the field besides the time that he ran into the guy. That kind of stuff might happen at some points, but you always take a risk with injury. I think Machado is about as low as it gets when it comes to injury history. I'm not worried about his knees right now. Someone even said that they think that he's a declining defender, and they think that his knees might have to do with it. But I think that's ridiculous as well. I don't think that's the case either. I mean, if you go back last year, yeah, he was a bad defender at shortstop when it came to the Orioles, but that's not because of his knees. I wouldn't say that's because he's shifting to a different position. Machado, since entering the league at 2012, he was a third baseman, and that's where he just stood. Even though he was at once a shortstop, he played third base for so many years, and then 2018 comes, his final year, he switches over. He's going to have some adjustment issues. He's not going to be a superstar like he was at third right off the bat. I think it's stupid that he's shifted over in the first place, but I mean, the fact that people are criticizing him for his defense and saying that it has to do with his knees. No, look at the bigger picture. It has to do with him shifting positions. And then not even that. He goes over to the Dodgers, gets traded midseason, plays 66 games with the Dodgers. You know what his defensive WAR was with the Dodgers in 66 games? It was 1.2. Positive 1.2 at an inferior position, not third base, but shortstop. He played a couple games at third, I believe, with the Dodgers, but I mean, for the most part, he was playing shortstop. And 1.2 over a course of 66 games for a defensive WAR, that's good. That's really good. So if he goes back to third, stays at third, stays healthy, which again, I don't think should be an issue, he's going to be a positive defensive WAR guy. He's going to probably give you anywhere between a 1 and 2 defensive WAR, which is great when you account for the fact that he's probably going to produce, I don't know, a 5 offensive WAR. His O WAR is probably going to be around 4 or 5. That's what Machado is. He's a 5 to 6, maybe even 7 WAR player, which has nothing to do with his knees. And I mean, I don't know. Injury-wise, Machado's fine. You're not going to really get a free agent who has a lesser risk when it comes to injuries. So with that said, we're going to move into the final thing that people like to criticize Machado about, which I'm sick and tired of hearing this. And you know what I'm going to say. It's the number one thing that people talk about, the lack of hustle / him being a dirty player. And I'm so tired of hearing this. I'm so tired of people talking about criticizing Machado for something that has nothing to do with his baseball production. Has nothing to do. And look, there is no one saying, I can understand thinking, being a clubhouse guy, or at least being a decent clubhouse guy is important. I do agree with that much. But nobody, and I repeat, nobody is saying that Machado is a bad clubhouse guy. No one is saying that. Okay? The problem is that he doesn't hustle, and it really showed in the playoffs. When the Dodgers went, and there was the time where he hit a ball and he thought it was a home run, and he kind of walked to first base, and then it wasn't a home run, and then he ended up with a single. But that's just him misreading a ball. And I don't know. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have run, but what I'm saying is it wasn't like he just said, I'm not going to run to second, I'm not going to try to get to second, I'm good with a single. He literally thought the ball was gone and was just wrong. Stupid mistake, should have run, I get it, but to criticize him of that and say oh, we don't want this 26-year-old generational talent because of that is ridiculous. It's just stupid. I'm sorry. I know this is going to sound awful, but producing as a baseball player, making your WAR high, being, hitting home runs, batting average, OPS, all that kind of stuff. Your production is the most important thing to a player. That bottom line. I'm sorry, but I'm taking a look. If there's a 5 to 6 win player that doesn't hustle, and then there's also a 2 to 3 win player that hustles, I'm going to take the 5 to 6 win player every single time. It doesn't matter. I mean, every single time I'm taking the 5 to 6 win guy over the 2 to 3 guy who hustles. That's just the way baseball is. And I mean, the most important thing is that you produce. And Manny Machado is a producer. He's a 5 to 6, even sometimes could potentially be a 7 win player. You go for that. The whole he doesn't hustle thing is so stupid. And I know it's important. I know it's important that he's he gives it his all and all that. But it's not. It does not override his success at the big league level. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Because you know what? You know who's another guy who didn't really hustle, who I mentioned at the beginning of this video? That's right. I'm talking about Robinson Cano didn't hustle. No, and I mean, it was not. People noticed it. People in New York noticed it, but it was not like this level of bad. It was never like the media was not on Cano this bad about not hustling. It was never like he was never pointed out like that, quite to the same extent that Machado is. But you know what? Cano is the best second baseman in Yankees history, and I truly believe that. He is the best Yankees second baseman in history, and him not hustling on the field had absolutely nothing to do with that. I mean, he was a great player through and through, regardless. He could hit, he could defend, he could do it all. He could do it all. And I mean, just because he didn't run all the way to first base, I mean, I do agree that there's a little bit of importance there, but I think the most important thing is being a good hitter or a good pitcher or wherever you're playing, being good, putting up good numbers, putting up a really high WAR. That is going to help your team win. The time or two that you don't hustle for a ground ball is not nearly as important as the other stuff in baseball. I'm sorry. It's just not. And I mean, look at Cano again. They were still successful with Cano. They went to the World Series. They won in 2009. And he's still good to this day, even despite the whole PED things. I love Cano. I'm sorry. I know a lot of Yankee fans have beef with him now, but I like Cano. I even without the whole PED thing, I think he's a great player. And yeah, he didn't hustle. So I mean, where's the excuse to that? I mean, where's the counter to that? That like, oh, I just don't like his attitude. That's stupid. You take the best talent. Machado is an exceptional talent. I wish the Yankees would have signed him. I don't think they're going to. It would put their payroll at too high of a point, but you don't make excuses to not sign Machado. Red flags, I don't really see it. Anyway, guys, that's all I really have about Machado. We'll see where he goes. I'm waiting to see where he goes. I'll probably make a video about it once he finally signs. Really curious about the numbers he's going to get. But yeah, just let me know if you agree with me. Do you want Machado? Do you wish the Yankees would get him? Or do you not want him for one of those reasons I said? Or do you not want him for a whole completely separate reason? Just let me know down in the comments. Until next time, guys, remember, as long as you're living, bleed blue. Go Yankees.